to the world.
I'm just a simple candy man. That's all I am.
Yeah. Well, to us, to the world, it's more than that. To people that love Jelly Belly, even though you don't own it anymore, and there's not residuals coming out of your ears,
Right,
and
right.
there's not, you still invented the Jelly Belly.
I did.
Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing an amazing man, a candy man, David Klein. So, David, welcome to the show. Welcome to Underdogz.
Thank you very much. I love the name Underdogz, by the way. Cool name.
I appreciate that. I love hearing about people's underdog stories, like just going all the way back in our history and learning where we came from, what makes us, what broke us, and what built us. So let's start all the way back. Where were you born?
Syracuse, New York.
Syracuse, New York. Now, how long ago?
I was born in 1946.
So back in the day.
Back in the day is right.
Back in the day. Very good.
Yeah.
And what was Syracuse like back then?
I don't remember anything about it. We left when I was 3 years old.
Gotcha. I don't have many memories from when I was 3 either. And where did you go from there?
We went to Van Nuys, California.
So one coast to the other.
Correct.
Very good. And what brought you and your family out to Van Nuys?
My dad got a job in a furniture place.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
we have similar paths there.
Yeah.
My dad used to do furniture as well.
Yeah. He worked for a really great company by the name of W&J Sloan's. They did the movie stars. They did all the movie stars furniture. Jerry Lewis, all of them, every last one of them.
That sounds like some expensive furniture.
Very expensive. Yeah. Well, I worked in a liquor store from the age of 5.5 to 13. My grandparents owned a liquor store. So I worked most of my life there. Putting away the empty bottles that were returnable. There were 2 cents deposit back then. Filling up the beer cooler with... And it was cold. I had to put a jacket on, like it was like 35 degrees. Here I am, a kid of 5.5, 6 years old, working around people that come in that are basically drunks.
I was gonna say it doesn't sound like the like the greatest place for a kid to work, but I
No,
guess you would.
But you know something? You learn how to get along with people.
I was gonna say
You learn how to make change.
Yeah.
You learn how to help people out with the car, with their merchandise. I learned candy. I learned the candy business. I used to go with my aunt to Smart and Final. It was a wholesale place, and we bought candy. They retailed for a nickel a piece then. Every candy bar retailed for a nickel.
A whole candy bar?
Whole candy bar.
My goodness gracious.
5 cents.
I don't even know what a candy bar costs these days.
Oh, jeez.
It's astronomical. It's got to be like $3 or something.
Over 2.
How much do you think it costs them to make a candy bar?
Oh, jeez. You know something? There's so many expenses in the candy business. It's not all clear profit. Here's the problem with candy. You have to, like especially today, you have to spend millions and millions on advertising, and you have to pay the supermarkets for the ability to put the candy into their store. It's called a slotting allowance. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Okay, it's good that you haven't, because that's why you don't go into the supermarket where you check out and wonder why you only see the same candy for the whole year. They pay for that whole year.
It's not. We keep talking about these expensive things. It sounds like it's almost like real estate in a store.
Oh, it is real estate. That's the best way of describing it. You're paying for real estate. And if you don't have that kind of money or the ability to give them a free case for every store or 10 cases or whatever they ask for, you're not going to get into that store.
Interesting. Now, let's go back to the liquor store.
Okay.
Okay.
It was called the Lazy Bee.
The Lazy Bee. That's really good. I could see where you would learn how to deal with people, impaired or not. They're there to shop for a product. But as a kid, I remember being 10 years old selling furniture to adults in my dad's furniture store, and you learn how to talk to adults. And we were always raised to be very respectful. It was yes, sir, and no, sir, and yes, ma'am, no, ma'am.
Sure.
But when you're selling, you also have to have kind of that gift of gab. Were you born with that piece? Do you think that
Yeah.
you've always had that gift of gab?
I really was. I'm not trying to brag, but I really was.
Tell me a little bit about that experience.
In class, I took a early liking to the candy business. And when the teacher would walk out of the room in junior high, they would have me come up and talk about candy. Kids would be I used to say, name a candy bar. And they said, Milky Way. And I told them the origin of the product. It was Mars. And Mars also owned Uncle Ben's converted rice and all kinds of things. And big and canned dog food and canned dog food. And any candy bar they mentioned, I told them some interesting facts about it while the teacher left the room to have a smoke break or whatever they were doing.
You talk about back in the day, like
Yeah.
I don't think they're allowed too many smoke breaks these days.
No, but they did then. Believe me, they did.
Gotcha. They're probably vaping in between sessions.
No doubt.
Yes. So, what happens into middle and high school? What's your experience there?
High school, I took advanced placement courses. I took Algebra 4. I took trigonometry. I went up as high as I could with the courses they offered. I love math, by the way. I just love math. Do you like math?
I actually do. And for my entire life, I was really bad at math.
Okay.
I was good at reading. And then for some reason, I wasn't so interested in reading anymore. And in high school, math was starting to become that strong subject. And in the beginning of college, like I fell in love with math. And I was like, when did I get good at this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I did better in college math than I did in high school.
You know, when you say, when did I get good at this? I went to UCLA and I took Italian, the language Italian. And I kept on thinking during the class, I'm going to get better at this just by going to sleep. And somehow or another, but it never happened. I couldn't speak it. I knew the language by the language, but I always had a hard time pronouncing it. But I love Italian is a beautiful language.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful.
I would love to learn other languages. I would I'd have to really focus. You know what I mean? Like I'd have to hyper focus on it for a few months to even to kind of absorb and then practice.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to learn Spanish like fluently.
Spanish is so important for somebody.
And especially in business, like I want to be as universal as possible. I want to sell to the world.
Yeah.
But I would love to sell to the world in their language. You know, I know we have a lot of tools now with AI, and we can, have immediate translation through an earpiece. So that's kind of cool. It takes some of the learning out of it.
Yeah.
But so now I've watched a biography on you. So for the people that are watching right now, David has invented many things in the candy business. He's inventing every day. But his original claim to fame was inventing the Jelly Belly. Okay. And I mean literally Jelly Belly, the brand. So I watched a biography on you, and it talked about how you helped pay your way through college.
Yeah.
So what did you sell in college?
Popcorn.
To get through
Popped popcorn.
Popped popcorn.
Yeah.
And
It was actually called Big Dave's. Big Dave's.
Okay.
Big Dave's popped popcorn.
So tell us how that works. Tell us the logistics of selling popcorn in college to get paid through college.
The price was so good in those days, all I had to do was show up at a liquor store with the product in my hand. I walked in with the product so they could see it. Hi, I've got a great fresh popcorn here. I'd like you to buy some. And I sold probably 90% of the people that I walked into.
My goodness. And so pretty good margins then on popcorn.
Tremendous. You were paying 8 cents a pound for the unpopped popcorn. And we were popping it in coconut oil. And coconut oil gives a nice buttery taste to it. And then one day, there was a typhoon in the Philippines. This sounds like a phony story, but it's not. There was a typhoon in the Philippines. It wiped out the coconut crop, and we were not protected by a contract. We had to buy it at the spot price, and because we couldn't afford the popcorn anymore. And we didn't want to change the oil because it was our customers were used to that great coconut oil to pop it in. And so we went out of business. It was kind of sad.
That is sad. I mean, it's kind of a story as old as time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like life changes, things happen, especially the things out of your control, right?
No control whatsoever.
So, what do you have to do? You got to pivot. You got to go on to the next thing.
You get back on the horse.
You get right back up, which is ironic that you mentioned horses because I see this cowboy hat. And I'm sure people are wondering, what in the world?
You talking about this?
Yeah, I'm talking about that right there.
Interesting story behind this. It was made by Nudie, N-U-D-I-E. Can you read his name in there somewhere?
Yes. Yeah, I can see it.
And I walked into his place. It was on Lankershim Boulevard in North Hollywood. And his car was parked in the front. And then it had horns sticking right out of the car. And I walked in. The outfit that I was wearing walking in, if it cost $10, it cost a lot. I bought it at Kmart. Remember Kmart?
I do remember that, yes.
Do you know they merged with Sears? Two companies merged together and they both destroyed themselves.
I know they're both gone now, right?
Yeah, they both merged under one ownership. So I walked into Nudie's and he said, "How can I help you?" And I said, "I'm here to buy some clothes." He said, "My stuff is very expensive. I cater to the Hollywood elite." That's exactly what he said to me. I said, "Okay." I said, I'm going on the Mike Douglas show for the second time. And I need to wear a different outfit than I did the first time, because the first time I wore a beanie.
That makes sense.
And I need something a little bit better than a beanie that costs $3. I said, "I need you to make me a custom outfit." The minute he heard Mike Douglas, "Come on in."
Oh yeah, please, yes, sir. Now you're worth talking to. He said.
Yeah, the outfit cost me. Now this is 1977. The whole outfit, the hat, the belt, the mask, the boots, the whatever they are, I don't know what they are.
The boots,
everything.
the whole get up.
Everything. $4,324. Back in those days.
$4,000?
No, $4,300.
$4,300.
And $20.
Oh my gosh.
The whole outfit.
We're gonna have to look up. We're gonna look up what
value of that
what
is
value comes out today.
yeah.
We're gonna throw it up on the screen because that's
probably 5 times.
Yeah. $4,300. Now this hat weighs like 9 pounds.
This hat can give you a concussion. Look at this thing.
Yeah, the hat literally. I mean, it's a heavy hat.
I was wearing this hat in Park City. Have you ever been to Park City?
I haven't. It's one of the places I do want to go.
Be prepared when you go there. It's going to be very hard to breathe the first couple of days.
Gotcha.
Because it's so high up.
Yes.
Where everybody's skiing and everything. I walked in to a Western store in Park City, and I was wearing the hat. Very interesting lady. She said, "That's a Nudie." I said, "Yes." She said, "Yes." I said, "Yes." Yes, I said, somebody said yes. I said, "Yes." I said, "How did you know?" She said, "I own a Western store." How could I not know? He's the most famous guy in the whole Western business. So it just started to rain while I was in there.
Mm-hmm.
And she said to me, "You're not going out into the rain in that hat. That hat is too good.
Yes.
I won't allow you to leave without something. So I'm thinking, what do you have for me? She said, this is a condom for a hat.
Ah,
And so she didn't give it to me. She sold it to me.
of course you did. You had a $4,300 outfit on.
Yes.
She sold it to
She
you.
sold it to me
Yes.
for $10.
Ah,
I think she took advantage of me.
she
because
probably did.
Because, if you need an umbrella and somebody's selling umbrellas, they're
Hey.
a little bit higher. By the way, if I ever would have been an umbrella salesman, I would not have started at the bottom of the building, because if they kicked you out, you have to go out. But if you start at the top, you can sell on your way down. So remember that.
That's a pretty good life lesson right there.
Just like when I was desperate for business, for publicity. I was doing $20 a day at Fossilman's. $20 a day. That was a good day.
And what were you selling at this time?
The Jelly Bellies there.
Jelly Bellies. Okay.
Fossilman was the ice cream parlor that I used to sell nuts to. And I went to him one day, and I said, I can't afford the rent. I was totally honest with him. I can't afford rent anywhere, but I can pay you $1 a pound for every pound that is sold here for $2 a pound. I'll give you $1 right off the top.
So you gave him 50% of gross profit
50% of the sales.
of the sale itself. Okay.
The sales,
Very good.
yeah. With no investment on his part.
That's a lot of percentage, though.
I was overly generous.
Yeah.
When Jelly Bellies got off the ground, I called the owner of Jelly Belly up, and I said, I need to talk to you. Yeah, what do you need to talk about? I want you to go up in price. You're charging me 59 cents a pound right now. I want to pay you 69. Go up a dime a pound.
This is the manufacturer?
Yes.
Okay.
My contract manufacturer.
Yes.
I said, I need you to go up. And he said, I've never heard of anybody asking for a price increase. What's your gimmick? What's your angle? I said, I'm making money. I want to make sure you make money. He said, you're getting 40,000 pounds tomorrow being shipped from Oakland. That's where they were back then. You're getting 40,000 pounds shipped from Oakland. Do I go up on that? That's going to be a $4,000 increase. Are you prepared for that? I said, yes, right now. Go up tomorrow. And he did.
Wow.
Have you ever heard of anybody asking for a price increase?
I have not. That's actually the first time.
Kind of crazy.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. What prompted you? I know you're wanting to look out for him, but like, why would you give so generously when you didn't have to?
That's been my nature my whole life.
Are you too nice? Are you too giving? Or would you?
Some people think that I am, but that's the way I am. I can't help myself.
Yeah. I can see that in the little bit of time that I've known you and the conversations that we've already had. He paid for my breakfast this morning. And for the people watching, you know dang well, no one pays for my breakfast. I pay for the breakfast. And he wouldn't let me do it. He literally, and I was told one time by another person that they got it over on me and they paid for my meal before I even knew it. And they go, sometimes you also need to be taken care of. Sometimes you need to accept something nice to you. And that's why
Absolutely true.
I really do appreciate that. It means a lot because most people aren't as quick to the draw as I am. I'll get it paid before the bill gets to the table. You will never know it, you know. But there's a kindness.
I've done that several times.
Yeah.
Going up there and giving the waiter or the waitress the money.
Yeah.
Without the other person knowing what I was doing.
One of my favorite things to do is to pay for some random person's meal.
I've done that. I love doing that.
I don't even need to see their face because you know what it's going to feel like.
100%.
Isn't that cool?
100%.
So you ask for a price increase.
Yeah, immediately.
You make this man $4,000 just because you want to make sure that everybody eats.
Want to make sure that everybody can get their paycheck in the factory.
Wow. Now, the story of Jelly Belly, I'm not saying it's that it's haunted, but there's a lot to it. Let's go back to the beginning of Jelly Belly.
Okay.
where were you when you had this idea? Because jelly beans had been around for a little while, right? Like the raw,
Right.
kind of boring.
Boring.
But just
Right.
take us back to there, because most of us listening, we've known Jelly Belly our whole life. Like there's so many flavors and so many things. It's something that we've always known, always been around, but we've never known the story.
Where was I the exact moment that the idea sprang in my mind? I was talking to a friend on the phone, and I said to my friend, what if I were to open up a store just selling jelly beans in flavors that had never been done before, that were miniature, 400 jelly beans to the pound.
400 jelly beans to the pound.
Right, mini. They were mini.
And then you sold how many pounds would you normally sell someone?
A pound.
A pound.
Yeah, at $2 a pound.
Gotcha.
But they didn't have to buy. They could buy $1 worth. They could buy 50 cents worth. They could buy whatever they wanted. But usually they bought a pound.
Did they have to buy them in an assortment, or were they sectioned out to where people could choose their flavor from the beginning?
Straight flavors. And that is the clue right there. My decision to make them in straight flavors, when I sold them to stores, they had to buy a case of each flavor. If I had sold just assorted,
Yes.
they would have bought assorted. I would have had one jar in the store, one jar.
Yeah.
This way, by making them buy straight flavors, forcing them actually.
Yes.
How is it sold? Well, you got to buy the lemon, you got to buy the tangerine, you got to buy the watermelon. So they had to buy all the flavors if they wanted to make their own assortment. Make your own assortment. But the fact that they invested money in each flavor, they sold them straight flavors, every
Wow.
flavor.
So we were at breakfast this morning,
Yes.
and we were having breakfast with our good friend EJ Ford,
Right.
and he felt super compelled. I mean, we're having breakfast with the guy that invented the Jelly Belly,
Right.
and he needed to tell you his favorites.
Hanging out with the candy man.
Hanging out with the Candyman this morning. That's a bucket list. I mean, I didn't even know that was on my bucket list. I didn't know it was an option for my life.
When you first met me, you didn't know I was the
I
candy
had
man.
no clue. Like I had this inkling of the voice, and I was like, where have I heard his voice before? So EJ says, I love root beer, and then his ultimate favorite was cotton candy.
Right.
But from what I hear, cotton candy didn't start out as cotton candy. Can you tell us about that?
12-year-old young lad walked in. He said, I'd like to taste the strawberry. Yeah, what's strawberry at that time? And he tasted it. He said, this doesn't taste like strawberry. And so I looked at him, because I listened to everybody. I said, what does it taste like? He said, it tastes like cotton candy. I changed it. I had the ice cream guy. He was a sign maker. I said, could you please make me a sign? I want to take the strawberry down, and we're going to call it cotton candy from here on in. And we did.
So in essence, he changed the course of that
Changed
whole.
the course of the world. Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. True. True story.
Out of the mouth of babes.
Yeah. You listen to people.
Yeah.
You have to listen to people. But when I started Jelly Bellies, I was doing $20 to $25 a day in business. And I knew that if I didn't get business immediately, the company that was my private contractor would have lost interest in it. They kept on calling. How's business? Oh, it's great. Well, why aren't you ordering? Oh, I will. Believe me, I will. So I wanted to start at the top. I could have called the Alhambra Daily News, but that would have just reached Alhambra. So I wanted to go right to the top. So in those days, 1976, the Associated Press was huge. Absolutely tremendous. And so I called the Associated Press, and I asked for the editor of the business section. I wanted people that own stores reading it. I didn't want to go into the fashion section, the society section. I wanted it into the business section. Young man by the name of Steve. Did that get me?
No, you're good.
Okay. Steve Fox, Fox. And I called him. I told him my name. My name is David Klein, and I have the only jelly bean store in the world. It wasn't really an exaggeration because it was really a store within a store. And it was less than 50 square feet. And if you wanted to change your mind, you'd have to walk outside. Literally, it was that small. I mean, it was a little like a Baskin Robbins, non-refrigerated. It was non-refrigerated.
Mm-hmm.
Little ice cream stand with with tubs in there that were empty that I filled them with Jelly Bellies. So he said, "How is the store doing?" And this might be the most crucial thing that I say today. If I had told him that we were doing $20 a day in business, nobody wants to write up somebody that's not making any money. They will say, that's what we have an advertising department for. That's what you pay for advertising. You don't get it for free unless you're newsworthy. If you're newsworthy, they will write you up if it's an interesting story. So I told him, and I might be embarrassed by this, but I don't think I am. I told him that we have women from Beverly Hills that are sending chauffeurs there to pick up Jelly Bellies.
Wow.
Sorry for that, but...
So you told a little white lie.
I told a little white lie. He said, I would like to come down with my girlfriend on Sunday at 10 o'clock. Can you meet me there? And I said, absolutely. Well, I didn't want the place being dead when he got there with no customers there. So I arranged for my friends to be there buying Jelly Bellies at that exact moment.
To make the store look full.
Yes. And I said to one of them, say your dad loves black licorice, because that was one of our flavors back then. Buy him 3 pounds of black licorice. Everybody had a different story.
Yes.
And it worked. It worked.
So you pretty much scripted it.
It was kind of, yes, it was scripted.
Yeah.
It was scripted. There was a movie at one time with, what's the name of that guy that runs Sundance? The guy from Sundance. What's his name? Robert Redford.
Robert Redford, yeah.
Yeah, he did a movie with Paul Newman. Did you ever see that movie?
I believe I've seen like clips from it, but I've never seen the full movie.
It was like the whole thing was arranged. And I'm a little embarrassed by it, but if I hadn't done that, nothing would have happened. Nothing would have happened. Nobody wants to write you up if you're doing $20 a day. So I'm not telling you to lie, but if you don't spread the truth a little bit, you're not going to get a write-up.
Well, not every business has thousands of dollars in the beginning of their brand to
exactly
to even spread the message.
No.
Now, obviously, these days we have social media.
There was no social media.
We've got a lot of different outlets, right, to be able to,
of course,
to reach the world. I would imagine, like the way that you talk about the Associated Press, that was the way.
The only way.
So, in essence, and I don't ever want you to apologize or think that you did something wrong there, because if you think about it, people go on social media platforms every day.
True.
And show a fake life and a fake situation of their brand, of their business, of their personal brand.
Now I feel better.
Yeah, that's
true. It's true.
It's a that is also a tale as old as time.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do to get your brand out there. Now, if you would have went to further levels of deceit, then maybe we're teetering on the edge.
No,
but
no further levels.
Just like a good commercial.
Yeah.
You set up a commercial.
Exaggerated a little bit.
Exaggerated a little bit so that you could get the word out there.
Right.
And then what happened next?
It exploded. I never had to do any selling after that. It exploded. I got a call from Marshall Fields in Chicago. They were famous for their windows and for their candy department and for their Frango mints. Have you ever heard of Frango mints?
I have not.
Okay. They were known for that back in those days.
Frango mints.
Frango, Frango.
Gotcha. Okay.
They were made at one of their branches in Seattle on the 12th floor. They made the Frango mints there. I had the pleasure of touring that one day. Frederick and Nelson was the name of their branch that was owned by them. They had a fantastic candy store. Their head candy buyer called me on the phone. He said, "I'd like to speak to David Klein." I said, "Speaking." And he said, "I am so-and-so." I wish I could remember his name, but I can't.
That's all right.
You realize how it was almost 50 years ago?
I was going to say, it was
A long time ago.
It was a while.
I had his name a year ago. And he said, I have $20,000 allocated to buy your product. I want to buy 20,000. I want to give you a purchase order right now over the phone. I said, "What's the hurry?" He said, "I want to get it before Macy's and all these other guys get it. I want to scoop the town of Chicago.
Wow.
I want to be the first to get it."
And did it work? Did he?
Here's the story. He said to me, "I'm going to send you a purchase order." I said, "Well, there's a little problem. I don't have the funds to fund an order of that size."
Yeah, I was about to say that's a massive order.
Yeah, especially back in those days. And he said to me, "I'll tell you what I will do." And he kept his word. "I can't pay you in advance because we just don't do things like that."
Yeah.
He said I would get fired.
Usually it's a PO.
Yeah, PO.
Net 15, net 30, net 60.
Exactly. He said, "But the day we get your shipment in, that check will go out in the mail that day. Not the next day, but that day." And by the way, when they made the check out, they had sent the purchase order to my contract manufacturer so they could have the order in front of them.
Yes.
They didn't read the whole purchase order. There was a penalty of $2 a box if they didn't put the purchase order on every case that they shipped. So they dinged me for $2 a box. What are you going to do? I mean, it was right on there. I felt bad about it, but just the way it happened. And they got the order in, and they sold them like it was going out of style. Absolutely tremendous.
Now, they sent the PO to the manufacturer.
Correct.
Did the check go to you?
Yes, the check went to me. Thank you.
It's always nice when the check goes to you.
Yeah, the check went right to me. So.
Because, unfortunately, the story is tainted with the check not going to you.
No. They were very, very honest, and the check went to me.
Good. Now, as you're making these deals and you're starting to get in purchase orders, what does life look like? Because it sounds like money had started rolling in.
Good money was coming in.
So what was life like? What did you spend it? Did you save it? Did you invest it? Did you roll it through and keep the product going? Like what did you want to do, and what did you do with the money?
Here's what happened. This is kind of sad. Can you handle a sad story?
I can try my best. Yeah.
Okay. You don't have to laugh at it.
No. I can try.
Okay. My father-in-law was arrested. That's sad. He was a loan shark. You know, a 5 for 4 type guy? Mm-hmm. Or is it 6 for 5? I don't know what it is. What is it?
I don't know the...
Oh, I don't mean personally. But
Yeah.
Yeah, he was arrested for loaning money at excessive interest, or any interest, I don't know.
Yeah.
And he had a little store opposite the General Hospital, the one that they used to have on Ben Casey.
Mm-hmm.
You're too young to remember that.
I've only heard the names of a lot of this, unfortunately.
Okay. And they arrested him for loan sharking. And because they arrested him, he had a lease in his clause, kind of like if you do something bad, you can get kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was kicked out of his place where he used to conduct his loan sharking. In fact, that's the place where I first met him. And he said his daughter was in England and I would make a perfect match for her. And she would be coming home in 2.5 months. And so I eventually met her when she came home and I married her. And she passed away about 4 years ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Okay, thank you. Good woman, very good woman. As a matter of fact, she saved the product. She saved Jelly Bellies. They came in 30-pound boxes, and they were all stuck together like a giant ice cube. My first order. They didn't even put wax paper on the top. And so she said, I know what we can do. She took her aluminum sheets out, and she sun-dried them in the sun.
To separate the Jelly Bellies.
To get all the excess moisture out. They put too much sour in it, and they were like a block.
Wow.
Of Union Ice. You ever hear of Union Ice?
The term, no.
No, they're in California. And so after about a week of sun drying, I could separate them after that point. So if it hadn't been for her idea of how to separate them, I would have been out of business at that point.
You know, it's amazing that the women in our lives, the ideas...
We have to listen to them. We really do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of wisdom to be had. And I would say as a creative and an inventor, it's very hard. There's a lot of ideas that I have, and I write down stuff all the time. My brain does not stop. And it's not always easy taking others' advice, because you have to realize that even though you're steering the ship, you're not always needing to be the one in control. And the wisdom of a woman, especially the woman in your life, the woman that you love and care about,
right?
You definitely have to give her the respect she deserves. And what an amazing! What if you would have told her, "No, honey, I've got it. Right. I'll figure it out."
Yeah.
and you think about the trajectory,
right?
It'd be like, no, we just have a whole bunch of blocked up candy. You know what I mean? And then you would have invented like some rock candy.
Right.
It would have been different.
That's true. So my mother-in-law called me up in a panic, and she said, David, we have a problem. And I said, whatever it is, we can figure it out. She said, Ben lost his job because he was arrested. And we need a store that he can go into where he can have immediate income. That's the word she used, immediate income. Or my son, Morris, who was in medical school at the time, will drop out of medical school to support the family. And the family would be devastated and ruined. So she said, it was up to me to find him something, anything that he could go into work with and make enough money to support the family. My partner in the wholesale nut business, Cal, C-A-L, had another store in San Marino, very wealthy community. And I called him up and I said, I would like to buy your San Marino store for my father-in-law. And I explained to him the circumstances. And he said, no, I'm going to hold on to that. And I offered him quite a bit of money. He said, no, I'm going to hang on to that just in case anybody in my family needs that store. The store was worth maybe $20,000 at that point, and that included the merchandise in it. And he said, no, I don't want that. I said, how about if I give you half of Jelly Belly? I traded him half of Jelly Belly. Half. 50%.
You traded Cal?
Yes, for that store in San Marino.
A $20,000 store?
Correct.
You gave him half of Jelly Belly?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, okay. And from the moment that Cal was my partner, they hated him at the factory.
Why?
If you knew Cal, you would know why. Really.
Gotcha.
He was a typing, bookkeeping teacher his whole life. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
He's a numbers guy then.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, elementary bookkeeping.
Gotcha.
Nothing where you don't want to do anybody's taxes. But nice guy. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. Nice guy. I was desperate for something.
You had to do what you had to do.
I had to do it. I had no. I was.
Well,
bad.
it's what you have to barter with, right?
Yep, that's all I had.
Yeah.
I offered him money. He didn't want money. I offered him half of the 50% of the Jelly Belly. And he would go up to my contract manufacturer and ask them how business was. He got under your skin.
Gotcha.
That's the best way I can describe it. Yeah.
Now, as a 50% partner, he had immediate say-so,
Yeah, he did.
immediate
And
a piece of control.
I'll tell you how immediate he had. He called me into his office once, and he said, I need to talk to you. This was like about 6 months after he became half owner. And he said, you know, I just reached Medicare age. I said, yeah, congratulations. And he said, but you have many years to go before you're on Medicare, and I don't think it's fair that you are now that you're not paying your medical policy, your insurance, your Blue Cross. He said, I think it's only fair that you pay your own Blue Cross because I don't get that benefit anymore.
Now, as a 50% partner, does he get to make that choice?
Here's the story on that. Maybe I could have argued with him, but I did not want to argue with him. I wanted things to be where we weren't arguing about things. And that was the only thing we ever argued about. So I paid for my own policy, but after giving him what I gave him, he should have been more than happy with just 50% of Jelly Belly. It was worth a lot of money.
So you were trademarked nationally?
Here's the story on that.
Because I've always wondered that part of it.
We went to an attorney, not to mention his name. I will if you really need to, but he's probably
No. We can.
He's probably retired by
Yeah.
now. He was in Monterey Park.
We give him no reason.
No reason.
No reason.
Yes. And we said to him, we want to take out a national trademark on Jelly Belly. Jelly Belly, Jelly Bellies, whatever it was. He charged in those days $2,000 for that. $2,000. It was very expensive. It's not
Yeah.
that expensive anymore.
I was about to say, you can do a
Do
trademark
it
a lot
yourself,
cheaper now.
$275. And we said to him, how about the California trademark? He said to us, you can wipe your bottom with the California trademark. It's meaningless if you get the federal trademark. Okay, well, here's how meaningless it was. Fossilmans filed for the California trademark themselves. They signed, March Fong Yu was Secretary of State back then. They signed the thing that under the penalty of perjury, they were committing perjury if they were telling a lie, which they were, that they were the only one entitled to the California trademark above anybody else. And they weren't. Bob Fossilman called me on the phone one day. I remember right where I was standing in the back of our warehouse. It was about 11 o'clock in the morning, and he said, Bob, this is Dave. I said, Bob, I've heard your voice every day for the past year. I think I know who you are. He said, now you listen to me. And he got real uppity, like real uppity. He said, how many partners do you have? I said, well, there's Cal. Cal is my partner. And they said, no. He said, no, I'm your other partner. And I said, I have a very interesting story. I don't know if other people had these kind of situations. Do you know anybody else that has these kind of situations?
Not at the scale.
No, okay. But I'm only telling you like 10% of what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, the really interesting stuff. So he said, I am your new partner. I said, how do you figure that, Bob? He said, I own the California trademark for Jelly Belly.
The guy that was creating the product this whole time for you.
No, that's the factory.
That's the factory.
I'm talking about the ice cream parlor.
The ice cream parlor where you rented.
Says what? Yes, where I was giving him $1.
Oh my gosh!
He's the guy that did it. It wasn't the. Stop that. He is the guy that took out the trademark. And when we went to make the documentary, I want you to watch that documentary. By the way, you can see it for free on YouTube.
Yes.
Okay. I don't want anybody to not know that. But
and what is the documentary called?
Candyman, the David Klein story.
Very good.
Did you know I'm writing a book?
I mean, you've hinted on it, but I haven't.
Not the one I showed you today.
Gotcha.
It's called It's Time to Spill the Beans.
That is a great title.
It's time to spill the beans. And at my age, I'll be 79 next year when I take the bar exam. There's no point of holding back anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So, wait.
As some famous country singers would say, your give a damn is busted.
Oh, yes. I like that.
You are ready to rock.
I like that. So here's what we did. Signed a contract with Fosselman's.
But what percentages are left to divvy out?
No. Here's what we did. We agreed to pay him $64,000. And he thought it was per year. He thought he was going to get $64,000 for the rest of his life. We wrote the contract up so that this contract was good until the sum of $64,000 is reached. So our interpretation was it was over with at $64,000. His interpretation was $64,000 for the rest of his life. Mm. So we made quarterly payments to him, which was 4 times a year. We made quarterly payments to him. Oh, and also anything that he sold, we had made him a distributor. So the little bit that he sold was deducted from the $64,000. He just needed an income of $64,000.
Gotcha. And so he was looking for a cheap way out.
Right. And when we handed him the last check, Cal did all the work because I couldn't stand the sight of him.
Of course.
At that point, he made me sick, actually.
You had to feel betrayed.
Oh, especially betrayed.
Yeah.
And there were 3 brothers in there. There was Jim, Bob, and Jim. 3 brothers.
I was going to say brother number 3.
Brother number 3, that's perfect. Bill was the 3rd brother, the nicest brother, the one that wasn't involved in any of this. And the crazy thing about it was, I trusted them like you would. I mean, I just trusted them. I never expected them to do this, ever. It shocked me. So Cal went with the last payment on the check so that the sum of $64,000 was reached. And he said, Bob, I want you to look at don't just take the check, look at the back of it, how we put contract has been reached, contract over with, finish, goodbye, adios, no more money, whatever Cal wrote on there. And Bob said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? This isn't over with. This is a lifetime deal. And Cal said to him, well, I have a copy of the contract. Would you like to read it? He said, no, I'm going to go get my copy that was in his top desk. And he said, it doesn't say anything here about $64,000. It's over with at $64,000. Cal said, well, it wasn't supposed to. Wait a minute, it did say it was over. Whatever it's, Bob, you understand what I'm saying?
I do. You were saying that the contract that you had written
said
the sum of 64,000 was paid.
Paid, right.
And he's trying to say that
it was over. It wasn't over.
That it was not over, that it was supposed to be 64,000 a year.
Correct.
But that's not what the contract.
No.
The wording did not say that.
No, it did not say that.
So what happens next?
He said, I think you guys are trying to cheat me, which had to have been the funniest thing in the world. Yeah. Because what was he doing?
I was about to say, the man's been cheating you since, not since day one.
No.
Because everything started out fair.
Right.
But greed set in.
Greed set in. And I didn't talk to him for 6 years.
I don't blame you.
And in 6 years, I said to myself, I don't want to go through the rest of my life resenting him, because one of the brothers had made the flavor board for me and put the flavors on there. They gave me the spot in their store.
Yeah.
And I felt gratitude towards them, but certainly did not expect them to take out the trademark, the state trademark. They took out the state trademark. And the reason why that was so important is we hadn't received the federal trademark back at that point. It takes about a year to get the federal trademark, about a month to get the state. So they had the state trademark way before we even got our federal trademark.
Now, once the 64,000 is paid, does that entitle you back to the trademark, or does he still own it? He's just now paid, and he just happens to own it.
You want to hear something? As crazy as it sounds, I had never considered that. Great question. I had never considered who's entitled to the state, ever. I just figured, well, you know what? It just vanished. It didn't need it. I had the federal trademark, but I never thought about that.
Well, what about now?
Great question.
You may technically own it.
Well, you know what? There's something in a doctrine of law that if you wait too long, you can't complain.
The statute of limitations.
Yes. So.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't meet you.
Where were you back then?
Where was I 30 years ago?
Yeah. Where were you? We could have crossed some corners somewhere.
I was selling furniture at my dad's furniture store. I apologize.
You remember any of the brands of furniture? Because my dad only sold the very best.
Ours was new and used, but it was on the lower ends.
Okay, so it wasn't Henry or anything like that.
No, my goodness, no. Those are great brands. I don't want to blast out the brands that we sold, because they are good brands.
Right.
They're just on the lower end of that.
You know what? But there's a market.
It was affordable, and we got to sell to a lot of people that could afford it. So
good.
It was fair.
Yeah.
Now, let's fast forward the story. Now we've dealt with the 64,000. What does Bob say, and what does Bob do after that point?
I called him on the phone 6 years later. I called him on a payphone, actually.
After the 64,000 is paid.
Correct.
And
after.
He doesn't get any other direct money.
No.
Okay.
No. And I called him on the phone, payphone, and I said, Bob, this is Dave. He said, I didn't think you would ever want to talk to me again for what I did to you. I said, I'd like to come over right now. He probably thought I had a gun and I was going to shoot him. I've never shot any. I've never even shot a gun. Well, I shot a gun in the Army. Do you know I was in the Army?
I did not know that.
Okay. Didn't mean getting over.
I was going to say, when did you have time to go to the Army?
Yeah, I was. So I walked in the front door. He reached out for me to shake my hand. And he said, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't do, what I did wasn't right. And he apologized like right there. Right there. But it was crazy. For 6 years I held it in, which shows you shouldn't hold things in if you can possibly forgive somebody for it.
I mean, that's a lot to forgive.
Yeah.
You know, there's two different things. We've been watching The Chosen on TV, and it was teaching a lesson on repentance and forgiveness. Two totally different things.
Wow.
Now, I didn't know this. I didn't think this. Repentance is, this was Bob, right?
Right.
Repentance is for Bob to ask for repentance.
His brother was another one of his brothers was a priest, by the way.
Gotcha. So then they knew this lesson
They knew it
already. Forgiveness is not something that he can ask you for. It is something that is gifted from you to him.
Very interesting.
So if you think about it, it's your right. Now it's not necessarily it's not good for your mental health. It's not good for your well-being to hold that type of grudge.
Right.
But you were also harmed mentally, emotionally, physically. Like it has everything to do with everything.
Absolutely.
So you're allowed to.
Right.
It's just not good for you. But did you forgive him?
Yes, I did. Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
And that's
not only did I forgive him, but I ended up selling him a new line of candy.
now there's I like
there's
that part.
There's a salesman.
I will turn my enemy into a customer.
Yeah, we were the first company to come out with a line of sour licorice. He was one of our first customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Crazy.
Good. I hope you made some money.
Yeah.
I hope you made at least $64,000 off of him.
No, we didn't.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, I don't know how much more time we have, but we have to talk about the lawsuit with Jelly Belly.
That's exactly where we're going.
Right. Good. Good spot to go to.
I need to know
what happened.
Where does that part come in?
You're getting the scoop on this, by the way. I don't know how long it's going to take you to get this prepared.
Just a couple days.
Okay. Because the New York Times is right on me for the whole story.
Well, then I'll work faster.
Work a little faster. Okay. For years, if you asked Google who is the founder of Jelly Belly or the inventor of Jelly Belly, I was waiting for it to say me. And you want to do it right now? Live? See what it says? Can you? Or would it screw up your...
Yeah, we can. No, we can do that. EJ, do you mind looking up... EJ's our tech.
Okay.
EJ, if you could look up who is the founder of Jelly Belly. If you'll Google that for us. Now, I'm interested to know that.
Here's how it got very complicated. Like who... They now recognize me as the inventor of Jelly Belly. But because when I started with my contract manufacturer, I owned a company called The Jelly Belly. I owned that company. I had a store called The Jelly Belly. I was at 12350 Ventura Boulevard in Studio City. I owned that business. The Jelly Belly. Now, they said their great-great-grandfather, Gustav Golitz, Google said, Gustav Golitz, their great-great-grandfather, was the founder of Jelly Belly, and made me look like I was lying. So I sued them on that.
And this was somebody's great-great-grandfather?
No, the current people that own the business.
Yeah, but they're saying that somebody way back in the day... Oh,
yes.
That's right.
Who died in 1902.
So Google used to say that a guy that died in 1902...
Correct.
Invented the Jelly Belly.
Correct.
When at that point there had only been jelly beans anyways.
Yeah, we agreed on that.
And now they recognize you as the inventor of Jelly Belly.
Yeah, but they didn't a couple years ago.
Gotcha. So it took a while to get that changed.
Yes. I had called the owner of the company of Jelly Belly, who's no longer the owner, by the way. He sold out to a company from Italy. Ferrara company.
Gotcha.
Huge company. They did $18 billion last year. That's a lot of business. Ferrara did $18 billion. They own a Butterfinger, Baby Ruth, for Rocher, Sweethearts,
Gotcha.
Willy Wonka. I mean, they own
a lot of candy.
A lot of candy. Yeah. So I had called him several years ago, and I left a message for him. I said, Herm, if you could please get Google to change what it says about me and my importance to Jelly Belly, because it says that Gustav Golitz invented it, and as we both know, that's not true. And he never bothered. So I sued them. And our attorney sued them in New York. To this day, I'm not sure why they picked New York, but they did. And they made the mistake of dismissing the action in New York and stating that the statute of limitations wasn't enough in New York. And that's what's called forum, F-O-R-U-M, shopping. They did forum shopping. Courts don't like you to switch. They switched it. They tried to get it into Massachusetts, and then Jelly Belly had it moved to California. This thing was like revolving like around a... And I got slapped. It's called slapped. I got slapped because we could not prove the case. And when you get slapped, you have to pay the other person's attorney's fees. So right now I have a lien on me, a lien on me, the man who invented Jelly Bellies, for $276,000 that I've been ordered by the court to pay them. Could you repeat that amount, please? I want to make sure you heard it right.
$276,000. This is for their attorney's fees?
Yes, yes.
Because
we lost the case.
Because you lost.
Right. It's called slapped.
And what was when you were suing them, what were you suing them on the basis of?
Defamation and a few other causes of action. And the whole thing was such a nightmare to me that I don't even like thinking about it.
Yeah.
Just thought.
And this is the manufacturer?
Yeah.
The original manufacturer?
My original manufacturer.
Yes.
Correct.
And so how did they take control of Jelly Belly? Like when you said they made all this money, like how were you not still entitled to the money?
Oh, I only had a 20-year contract with them. I signed for 20 years that I would get payment, and after 20 years it went over. It went out. I wasn't entitled to anything.
So there was no royalties, there was no residuals?
None.
Built in?
20 years, that was it. Goodbye. 17 cents a pound. Adios. We don't need you anymore.
So at 20-year mark, they own...
Lock, stock, and barrel.
They own the formula? They own
they owned it to begin with, actually, because it was their formula.
It was their formula, your idea.
My idea, correct.
And you paid them, and I
paid them for the product, and then after a while, we had a deal where they gave me 17 cents a pound, and that's all I had to do was the 17 cents, receive the money.
And there was no way to negotiate that?
No, it was over with.
Because they had too much control at that point.
Yeah, they had full control.
So, were you ever issued your national trademark for Jelly Belly, for the word Jelly Belly, for the logo?
They got it as soon as they acquired it.
So after the 20 years, they own the national?
They owned it right from the beginning.
And why?
Why did I turn over to them? Because they bought it.
I'm sorry. When you said you had applied for the national trademark,
that's when I owned it.
Yeah.
I owned it at one time.
Yes.
Me and Cal owned it.
You own the national trademark?
Correct.
And then after the 20 years, did they take over ownership of that?
They took it over right from the beginning. They owned the trade. They had the trademark transferred to them right in the they bought it. They bought the national trademark from us.
And then
that's what they paid for.
But you agreed,
right,
to sell the national trademark
to them.
To them
for $4.8 million.
For $4.8 million.
Payable in monthly installments.
Over 20 years.
Correct.
Which came out to how much?
$20,000 a month.
$20,000 a month.
Correct.
For 20 years.
Yeah, $10,000 per me, $10,000 per Cal, and then the government got their nice healthy cut.
Yeah, they always get their cut.
Yes, they do.
They're not going to miss theirs.
No.
They're always going to eat.
No. It's not a sad story. It's not a happy story the whole way.
It makes me mad though.
You know something?
Like I'm on the outside, and I know you had to live it. I'll tell you the only reason that it upsets me is because as a creative and as an inventor, we want to be recognized for our ideas, and we want those to be profitable. It affects our entire family.
Oh, of course.
It affects our generational wealth.
Of course. But let me tell you a little. Stop doing that. Let me tell you something that. Am I in a good spot here?
Totally good.
Okay. When they flew down to do all the negotiations, I had known from a higher up person in their factory what they were prepared to do if I didn't sell to them. And as a matter of fact, when we were going to get it notarized at a bank at Valley Boulevard and Rosemead, the owner of Jelly Belly, which at that time was called Herman Golitz, the owner of Herman Golitz at that time was sitting in the front seat of the car, and I was in the back seat. And I said to him, if we were not going to get this notarized right this second, what would you be doing? And he said, do you really want to know? He had a cardboard piece that had a name on it. He said, we would have flown up to Oakland this afternoon, because that's where they were. By the way, when I started with them, they were like a 10, 15 people business, 10 to 15 employees, running to the post office every day to get checks that came in, just to stay payroll. He said, do you really want to know what I would have done? I said, yeah, you might as well tell me. We're going to get it notarized. He held up this sign, and on it, he said, that would have been the new name of our product. We would have cut you off. There would have been no more Jelly Belly. We know you would have sued us, but by the time it got to court, you would have been out of business.
And out of money.
And out of money, yeah.
Because that part's expensive.
Yep. So.
And they knew it, and they're bigger than you.
Yeah, they knew it. They knew it. So that's what happened. So how do I feel about the whole thing? Number one, I did not want to sell. It was like selling your baby, for crying out loud.
Of course.
I mean, I had spent day and night, no days off, 7 days a week, either working at that Jelly Bean store in Alhambra or calling on distributors or flying to do the Mike Douglas show twice, or Regis Philbin 5 times. I was on Regis's show 5 times with Sarah Purcell. You're too young to remember it.
I am too young for that one.
Yes.
I know Regis.
Yeah, okay.
But
So I was on his show 5 times, not twice, 3, 5 times. I flew up to Seattle to AM Seattle. I went to New York, and I did AM New York, and there was a mayor there, Mayor Koch, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He was walking in the studio as I was walking, and he said, I was wearing my outfit. He said, nice outfit, cowboy. And it was just like I was everywhere.
Yeah.
There was nowhere that I said no to that I wouldn't do. I was in People magazine in the bathtub of Jelly Beans. Did you see that?
I didn't, but I would love to. That's awesome.
I have a copy somewhere else. I'll show it to you. I was taking a bath. I'll show you how the owner of Herman Golitz was back then. When I took a bath in the Jelly Beans, my chest was exposed. He got a copy of it off of the newsstand, and he went to his sales manager and he said, Dave has ruined the whole Jelly Belly business. He didn't understand
He doesn't understand marketing.
No, not at all. Never did.
Disruptive marketing is
never,
the best marketing.
Never understood it. And he said, he's ruined the business. Now listen to this part. I need you to go out tomorrow and start getting contracts for candy corn. Now, what's the significance of that? Candy corn is made on the same mogul, M-O-G-U-L, that the Jelly Bellies are made on. You couldn't do them both at the same time. He never once told me what he was doing. And I'm out there selling the heck out of them, selling my heart out day and night, not being able to fill the orders and not knowing why. I didn't know till maybe a year later that he had told him to get contracts for candy corn at 29 cents a pound, making no money on it so that we can keep our employees in business.
Yeah. Can I tell you, I've got a statement and then I've got 2 more questions for you.
Sure.
I hate candy corn.
People either love it or they hate it.
I hate it.
I invented a candy corn called Triple Dimple that was different flavors like chocolate candy corn and pina colada candy corn.
Yeah. If it had a different flavor, I might try it.
These were all different flavors.
But
you might have loved it.
The regular candy, I cannot stand it.
You think it's too sweet, right?
It's way too. Hey, EJ, do you like candy corn? Not really. I know. I got another friend, EJ Nieves, terrified. He hates candy corn. But you never know. Some people like it. Okay, that was my statement. 2 questions. What is something that you've never told somebody, you've never told anyone about your experience with Jelly Belly?
That's a great question. I might have to phone that in. Let me think. Something that I've never...
Something that you've never told anyone about this experience with Jelly Belly.
Okay.
Some secret, something.
Doesn't have to be a big one, just a little one? Let me think now. I told you about them sticking together, and my wife air drying them, sun drying them, or whatever you can call that. That I told you. I should have saved that for that. Hang on. Jelly Belly. Can you hold that for a
There's
second?
no rush. There's no rush. Okay. I also have one other one. What was your wife's name, by the way?
Rebecca.
Let's go to a different question, and then
come back to
because I got a really good final question, but
hold on. I know. There's got to be things. You know the story about the kid changing the flavor to cotton candy. You know about Fossilman blackmail. Oh, the blackmail came. He said, if you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to call Jelly Belly. They're going to be dealing with me from now on. That added to the blackmail. Yeah.
So, where does Sandy Candy? What is that? Oh, go ahead.
That's kind of...
You're good.
Okay. Where does Sandy?
You answer.
Goodbye.
Okay.
What did you do?
It's there as well. It's right there as well.
Peekaboo.
Closer to you.
Oh, okay. Where does Sandy? Sandy Candy was invented by daughter Roxanne 30 years ago.
Your daughter.
Yes.
Gotcha. And the name just.
The name came up with by a lady that interviewed me for Sunset magazine. We were coming out with Sandy Candy at that time. She was right next to me. I showed it to her. I said, this is sand art that you could eat. The kids can have fun with it. Roxanne had gone to Knott's Berry Farm, and she brought one home, and she said, Dad, this is collecting dust after 2 months. If we made a version that the kids can eat it and decorate with it and put it in different shapes, like, ever see those elongated bottles, the Pepsi bottles that they stretched out, or different shapes like fish or, yeah, so it was her idea.
Very cool.
She was with us for 15 years in the business. And then she said, Dad, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, family business is hard. I can only imagine with the stress of
very, very hard. Very, very hard. I said, Roxanne, I want you to do whatever makes you happy in life.
Awesome. So, my final question.
Yeah.
What do you want to be known for?
Being a lawyer and helping people. Low-cost bankruptcy clinic. and actually helping people. I don't know if you've known anybody that's gone into bankruptcy, but now it's currently like about $5,000 to $6,000. And I think that's crazy for a couple hours worth of work. And I want to have a low-cost clinic, less than $1,000, that can help people as low as it possibly can be. That's what I want to be known for, all around the country. And since bankruptcy is a federal action, I can do it anywhere I want.
That's awesome. Well, good luck with the bar.
Thank you. Next February.
Next February.
Okay, give me that one more question like it's the first time you gave it to me.
So what is a secret or something that you have never told anybody when it comes to Jelly Belly?
Okay, I got one.
Go for it.
I'm just trying to think if I can come up with a better one.
No, that's all right.
Okay. But I have one. I really do. They were fined $250,000 for polluting the bay. All their waste product.
Who did?
Jelly Belly was fined.
Wow.
You want to tell people that?
I want to tell people the truth. Nothing wrong with exposing some truth.
Yeah. They were fined. Yeah.
Fined $250,000.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else. The guy that hauled away the stuff went to jail. That's the part that hurt me. He went to jail for several years, couple years. Yeah, he owned a sugar company. And he went to jail.
Wow.
And somehow or another, that kept on bothering me because I'm thinking, if I had never created the product, this guy would not be sitting in jail.
Possibly.
And also a guy died in their North Chicago factory. He was pinned in the basement between forklift and something else, and he was crushed right there.
Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to your book where you're spilling the beans.
It's time.
It's time
to spill the beans.
To spill the beans.
Is the official title.
Love that. It's time to spill the beans.
It has been indeed a delight. You're a great interviewer, by the way.
Thank you very much.
You are. You have a nice, easygoing touch.
No, it's been very good talking with you, and just to learn a little bit more about your story, because, in my opinion, you're a major part of history, and I know you're too humble to think that. I know you are, but I'll say it.
It's a jelly bean, okay?
I witnessed it this morning at breakfast. Okay, now I quietly I told our waitress, because today's outfit is very. It's very
speaks for itself.
It speaks for itself. His shirt literally says the Candyman. When the waitress had complimented your hat and complimented your outfit, I had to tell her. Okay. And I did ask permission. I was like, "Can I tell her, who you are?" And when I mentioned that you were the inventor of the Jelly Belly, her eyes lit up, and then she had to tell the business owner. So Nina immediately she wanted a picture, and I don't blame her. I didn't tell the people sitting next to me, even though I knew the whole table. I waited to tell them to the very end because I didn't want you to get mobbed. To the world, David. To the world.
I'm just a simple candy man. That's all I am.
Yeah. Well, to us, to the world, it's more than that. To people that love Jelly Belly, even though you don't own it anymore, and there's not residuals coming out of your ears, and there's not, you still invented the Jelly Belly.
I did.
That part will not go away.
Can never take that away.
They cannot. No. And now that it's recognized on ChatGPT and Google, it literally said the inventor of the Jelly Belly is this man right here, David Klein. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate your candidness. To be able to be brave enough to even tell a story that you lived.
I can never say I'm the founder of it, and I'm okay with that, because legally they made me admit that I wasn't the founder, because I didn't found their company. They founded. It took them 20 years to change the name from Herman Golitz to Jelly Belly. 20 years it took them.
And now it's David Klein. So when it says the inventor of the Jelly Belly.
No. I mean, their official name.
Their official name.
From 1980, when they bought it, to the year 2000, it took them that long to think, well, maybe this is here to stay.
Yeah, maybe they made billions of dollars off of Jelly Belly this year. So.
Well, they were doing on the average about $200 million a year.
Yeah.
$200 million.
No, not too bad.
That's not too shabby.
It's some spending money, right?
For a jelly bean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, without giving anything away, is there anything new?
Well, wait.
Is there anything possible?
Wait, ask me that in a minute. But after 30 years, they came out with a book. You listening to this?
I'm listening all ears.
The book was called 30 Years of Jelly Bellies. 30 years history. The 30-year history of Jelly Belly. That was the official title of the book. 30-year history of Jelly Belly. How many times do you think I was mentioned in that 30-year history?
I hope at least once.
0.
Come on.
Nothing. They erased me from the history of the product.
Yeah.
They erased. My signature was on the original packages, Mr. Jelly Belly, that was in the stores. The minute they took it over, they erased my signature that said Mr. Jelly Belly.
Do you have any of that memorabilia?
No. Nope, I don't.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that's because you sold it all. You sold it as quick as it came in. It was sold. But David, thank you so much for coming on Underdogz. Thank you for sharing just a piece of your story. Yeah. I hope we get to talk again. And when the book's released,
good.
It's time to spill the beans.
It's time to spill the beans.
I want to talk about this book.
Do you like the title?
I do. I love the title.
Yeah, it's great.
The title couldn't have been more spot on.
Great title. But it has a couple meanings to it.
Of course. So I'm excited to read the book. Hopefully there's an audio version. Have you thought about recording?
We have thought of that. Haven't found anybody to do it.
Well, I'm right here for you. I would love to record. Okay. We'll get you in the studio and get you to record it, because what better way to listen to the story behind the story than the man himself. So thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching on Studio 44 and from Underdogz. We'll see you next time. And remember that love wins always.